Hello and welcome to my first episode of my weekly forecasting series where I'll aim to share my, perspective on the markets and give a bit of insight into why I'm making the decisions I am and some of the trades that I'm getting into. So I think I've picked a pretty interesting week to get things kicked off for the first one because there's set to be quite a few changes from an economical perspective in America, which has helped, give us some clues to what sort of direction the markets will be moving in the next up and coming months and weeks. So if you're, a developing trader or looking to learn a bit more about, the fundamentals that go into the moves in the market and why things are happening, then I think this will be a pretty valuable series for you. I'm going to be doing a video every weekend just to give a concise overview of everything coming up and coming in the week forward, and it might help aid your directional bias. I trade through ICT concepts, so it's something that, if you share the same outlook, then it'll be pretty useful, but there'll be quite a few fundamental stuff, so even if it's not necessarily the concepts you look at trading, then I think you could still take some value away from this. So let's jump straight into it. So the first thing I'm going to be looking at is the dollar index. So as you can see on a weekly time frame, we've been trading up with a couple of retracements and then attacking sell side liquidity, and this has happened again. We've come up, and then if we look at the previous week's close, we've traded higher and then closed towards the low. So if we drop down to a daily time frame, we can better assess this by marking out this fair value gap here. We've been trading, coming up, trading, drop lower, attack sell side, made a fail swing on this high here. I'll just mark that out so it's a bit more easier to see. And then we've attacked the sell side again. So things currently from a technical standpoint are looking pretty bearish. I've marked out on the weekly time frame here this order block, this mitigation block, where we can see we've traded up to, and we're now, I'm looking to attack the lows. So it's been pretty choppy recently on a daily time frame, which has made it pretty hard for day trading. So I've kind of looked to position myself in some swings, just to sort of up the time frames to limit the chop that I'm sitting in. So breaking down fundamentally why I've been looking at shorts on the dollar, and even though it's been choppy, if you only solely look at this from a technical perspective, it might just look like, how do I position myself? What am I doing? What's going to happen? Which isn't always the best thing to do. You kind of have to lean on the fundamentals to get a better view of what your expectation is in the market. So for a long time now, the US economy has been struggling with its inflation since COVID, which has been problematic because they've been keeping the interest rates at a pretty high level in order to combat this, because if the interest rate's high, then businesses have less incentive to spend and borrow money, which means inflation can cool off. However, recently they've been struggling with the labour market, and it's been showing signs of slowing down, which hasn't been very favourable, and it's something that I think they've looked at, and they want to, Trump's been very keen as a Republican to lower the interest rates to drive the economy forward in the short term and drive money to businesses and get people spending again, which obviously if businesses are spending more, then they need to fulfill those services, which is usually through employment, to get people in the businesses to meet this demand. So he's been putting a lot of pressure on the Federal Reserve, the Central Bank of America, to lower interest rates, which the head of that, Powell, has been off holding for quite a while now, and he spoke actually on Friday and for the first time showed signs of lowering the interest rates over the next coming months. So we can expect a couple of rate cuts by the end of the year, which we saw this reaction in the market on the Friday, obviously sending it way lower. So this has been, in line with what the fundamentals have been pointing towards. We saw this sort of unsteadiness in the market because what was Powell going to say, or was he going to speak on it? But now we've had confirmation that Powell is actually, open to the idea of cutting rates and definitely saying it might be time to cut these rates, which is good for us. We've had nice displacement on this Friday. We've dropped down, attacking all this sell side, which definitely, in my opinion, is now making me think we're going to come and attack these lows down here. So my daily and weekly bias for the next up and coming weeks is going to be pretty bearish unless there's something that really changes things, because we're now probably going to start pricing in these rate cuts. So to look at the pair that I have been trading in, I've mainly been looking at the USDCHF. So I've been positioned in a trade on here, on a swing trade. So like you say, from just a purely technical perspective, this has been pretty choppy price action. So, using ICT concepts, we had a previous week's high sweep here. So that was my entry point where I'd anchored my Fibonacci retracement level up to this high here because I didn't expect this to go. So I thought this was a pretty safe bet. Now, it's been choppy, and if you were solely looking at this from a concepts point of view, you'd say, chop is bad. What's this, sitting through this has been like, oh, does it make sense? Whereas I've trusted the bias and the fundamentals backing the fact that the labour market getting a bit worse and, expecting a rate cut to come soon. It was just, when are they going to speak on this to better confirm it? So now this has happened, as we can see, the drop. And now I'm looking to target these lows at least. I will hold throughout the trade. And with swing trading, I have the advantage of sort of seeing what changes within an economy and making a decision based off where I want to hold to. So currently this is, targeting 5R to this low, but I will definitely see and manage my stop loss as this comes in. So after this move on Friday, I will now look to go break even in the up and coming week, just to give a better idea, as if my idea is right, then really we shouldn't get back to this point on a daily time frame. Any of the time frames are now pointing pretty bearish. We've had failed swings higher. The weekly chart, we've come up into this order block, tap this, and now we're looking to take out these lows. That's where I expect the next weekly candle to expand to, and I don't expect this high to get taken where my stop loss is. So I think I'm actually positioned in a nice trade for the up and coming weeks, which is something I will be looking at. So I still want to add a bit of perspective on my, the day trading side of things, because I know maybe a lot of the viewers that might watch this will be interested in looking at the, intraday trading. Where do they expect this move to go lower? So the reason I chose USDCHF is because the Swiss franc is most commonly known for being a safe haven currency alongside the dollar. So if the dollar is going to look to lower its interest rates, then that's going to devalue the dollar. And then if everyone's putting their money into the Swiss franc, then this will actually give a better chance of the divergence between those two moves. One's going up, one's going down, so I can trade that movement lower with the USDCHF. So I'll pull up the economic calendar now just to give a bit of a better insight to how this is looking. So this was the week that's just gone. So the start of the week was pretty quiet, and then we knew that the back end of the week was packed with these sort of red folder news drivers, with the main one being the Powell speaking on the Friday, which is again how that move sort of played out. And now looking at the up and coming week, so I haven't actually looked at this yet. So we've got a bank holiday for GBP on the Monday, so I'd probably look to avoid trading that Monday. Same with the Tuesday, really. There's no real huge drivers within the market that I'd be looking and banking on for expansion to happen on this day. Same with the Wednesday. So this Thursday is unemployment claims for the USD, and I think that will be a good driver. And then we've got core PCE price index on the Friday. So really my sort of positioning, if I was day trading or expecting expansion within the market, I'd ask you the question of, looking at this calendar, where are the news drivers that are really going to start to move price within the week? And then I would want to, or look for my technical setup within these days. So just having a quick look at this calendar, I know that the expansion for me, I probably wouldn't spend too much time on the charts early on in the week, and I would look to position myself at the back end of the week for whatever technical model I am, suited to, or what yours is might be different than mine, but I would definitely expect that. So if we know that the expansion's going to come on these days, and looking at the technical charts, I'm already favouring lower, then I'm expecting my bias to be bearish. I'm expecting this expansion to happen at the back end of the week. So I will then look to position myself in shorts at the back end of the week, which is looking to frame up pretty nicely. So just to have a quick look at the EURUSD as well. It's not something I'm currently positioned in. I've just got loads of drawings on here, but we can now see the fact that we've, gone the weekly time frame. Again, same sort of thing, it's just inverse to the dollar, so I'm expecting higher prices now from here. We could maybe look to position ourselves in OTE regions from this low, see if we can get retracements down, any discounts. If you trade an ICT, that would be a nice area to trade into. So, we've sort of got a nice idea within the next couple of months that, with the dollar cutting these rates, This will send Euro USD, GBP USD higher. Anything that's USD XXX, starting with, then that will go lower. So it's pretty now, all this chop, all this uncertainty is now starting to give us a bit of a clear outlook on the market, which is definitely what I'm going to be looking for up and coming. So basically anything short dollar or anything long on Euro GBP is what I'm going to look for. Mainly I'm looking at positioning myself in this USDCHF, where I would even look to scale into this position now from this high maybe, and that's what I will be looking at late next week, and see if there's any opportunities within the market if I can get into a premium to then short again. So I think this is a really, really good chance now to reflect on the up and coming next couple of weeks, next couple of months, and really hone in on looking for short opportunities on the dollar. I think that will most likely offer the most expansion and the highest probability bias. So that is what I will be favouring up and coming. So if you're trading, this might be able to help you, this sort of economic outlook. I will be keeping an eye on if anything changes. Obviously, it's very volatile with Trump being in as president. There's things that come about and there's things that change on a very frequent basis. But if they're looking to price in rate cuts, that will be a bit more substantial, and I think that will hold within the market. So it's just about picking out those high quality opportunities as they arise. So I think this has been a really useful week actually now. It's been a lot of chop on the weekly time frame, through this and the daily time frame. But it's a really good case study to see why the fundamentals give you the narrative in order to create a stronger bias. A lot of people, when they start out, maybe struggle a bit more with just looking at technical charts and not really understanding where this will go or what to look for. But this hopefully has provided a bit more insight into how you can arrive at a bias and a narrative before looking at entry prices within the market. So I think I've covered about everything that I wanted to cover in this summary. Again, I will be doing these videos on a weekly basis, which will hopefully give better insight on the up and coming weeks and where I expect things to go and expansion and any opportunities that I see in the market. I also wanted to have something where I could create something once a week just to give myself a bit more of a schedule with what I think and pulling things together and ideas. So if you found it useful and you look to, just tune in for every week for 15 minutes just to learn a bit more or just to have a concise outlook on what I'm seeing in the markets, then definitely subscribe to the channel. Liking the video would be a great support just to grow it and get this out to more people. Hopefully you guys have found it valuable, and I'll see you in the next video, and have a good week's trading.